Yeah, they started that really specifically.
Yeah.
There's especially.
You're ready?
Did they want? I guess, yeah.
It's 10 o'clock, so I'm gonna call this meeting. to
Oh,
order.
okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So that's like everybody, just kind of, listen to Aaron for a second. Yeah, something important to say, no. Anyway, I call the meeting to order, and Michelle, if you read a convening statement, please.
Well, before we begin, translations are available free of charge upon request.
Antes de que comencemos, servicios de traducción de forma disponibles bajo petición.
The Benton-Franklin Council of Governments, BFCOG, was established by a voluntary association of the local units of government in 1966 with the vision of providing a forum for improved communication, multi-jurisdictional decision-making, regional planning, and the capacity to serve as a lead agency in providing multi-jurisdictional programs. The services provided to the member jurisdictions are outlined by interlocal agreement and can evolve with the needs of the region. BFCOG currently fulfills the following designations on behalf of the Benton-Franklin region: Regional Planning Commission, Conference of Governments, Transportation Planning Organization, Metropolitan Planning Organization, Transportation Management Area, and Economic Development District. The BFCOG Board of Directors simultaneously serves as the governing body for the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments, the Benton-Franklin Metropolitan Planning Organization Transportation Policy Board, the Benton-Franklin Walla Walla Regional Transportation Planning Organization, and the Benton-Franklin Economic Development District. We share this information at the beginning of each board meeting to provide context to the information shared and actions taken in the meeting.
Thanks, Michelle. Lacey, would you do roll, please?
Yeah, okay. So, Ben Franklin Transit, Thomas Drost. Did I say that right? No. Ben County, Michael Alvarez.
Present.
City of Ben City, Len Burton. Present. City of Cornell, Lee Barrow. City of Kennewick, Gretel Crawford. City of Pasco, Charles Green.
Here.
City of Prosser.
Here for yourself.
Welcome. City of Richmond, Joanna Jones. Not here. City of West Richland, Kate Moran.
Present.
Franklin County.
Clint Didier, present.
Port of Benton.
Roy Keck, here.
Okay. Port of Kennewick, skip this here.
I'm here.
And Port of Pasco.
Vicky Gordon here.
Okay. And then Wastock.
Ryan White.
Right.
And we have quorum, so thank you. Introduction of guests. Do we have any guests other than Randy? Or any guests online? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on and do the pledge of allegiance. Now that we have a flag, Aaron, will you read it, please?
Yes,
All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is approval of the agenda. Do we have anything that we need to add or change to the agenda? If not, we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Move to approve.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Will say no. The agenda is approved. Thank you. Next item is public comment. If anyone would like to make a public comment this time. Hearing none. We'll move on then to presentations. And I'd like to introduce Randy Aiden, Executive Director of the Port of Pasco, who is officially retiring. here pretty quickly and is a good friend and has been a wonderful asset to the port community and to the whole Tri-City region. So Randy, you're up.
Well, thank you, Skip. That was very nice. Appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for the chance to kind of give you a brief just check-in with the Port of Pasco. I was told to give a couple of updates of things that we're working on, but I can't start without just doing a little background report, so I'll get through this quickly. But 3 commissioners, one of whom you know very well, Vicki Gordon, Gene Reichman, our president. Our 3rd commissioner resigned at the end of last year, so we're currently in the process of getting a 3rd commissioner. The commission has nominated Hans Miguelke, and then they expect to appoint him at our next meeting in January from the north part of our district. Just some quick facts. I figure with a bunch of local government folks in here, this kind of stuff can be interesting. So we're about 46 employees, 60% at the airport, 40% are non-airport staff, $52 million annual budget, depending on what kind of capital projects we've got. Our assessed valuation of our district, our levy rate's about 17 cents per thousand, and about 3.3 million in property taxes. A portion of that is the new TIF tax that you can collect on new industry. It's moving into your area. We'll talk a little bit about that. So I only put this map up here. This is a map of our properties to orient you. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Ryman Industrial Center project in purple up there, and then the airport, which is blue on that map. So at the Ryman Industrial Center, I think you've all heard a lot about Dairy Gold. They are getting close to opening. It's taken them much longer and costs a lot more than they initially had been planning, getting caught up in the COVID era. They have moved on to the commissioning phase of the project, and they're starting to fire different parts of their plants up and expect to be fully operational by July. One of the things that has made this Dairy Gold work in our county is all the partnerships with all of our local government agencies, and you all know how that's important here at the Council of Governments. But the city of Pasco made major upgrades to their wastewater facility that's going to take the wastewater to Dairy Gold. Counties put some money into the roads. The city built a new water reservoir as well, PV and substation. So it took a lot of players to make this. It's going to be $1 billion investment in Franklin County, all said and done when they're done. They'll bring in 8 billion pounds of milk every day. Whatever that, I don't know, I can't even translate what that amounts to, but it's a lot. We were saying when they first announced it was the largest milk processing plant in North America. Now we say it's one of the largest because that's what they're starting to say. So maybe there's no one. But anyway, it's a really big one. And, it's already having an impact in the county as far as dairy farms. Franklin County's had a number of expansions in dairy farms to supply the milk, and they'll draw from all eastern Washington into Idaho down into Oregon to get all the milk that they need for this plant. They're going to make powder, so dried milk that will primarily go to Asia, and then butter that will go East Coast in the US. No cheese at this facility. I know. Maybe in future. So I mentioned the TIF. This was the first project in the state that used the new tax increment financing law that allows communities to use the property tax increase that comes with the development to pay for infrastructure to support that development. So we got funding from a number of different sources that using the tax increment financing, we bonded $10 million to help pay for water lines, sewer lines, road, and a piece of rail line. So we expect when we get the final assessed valuation, when they're done with construction and the county assessor catches up with that, we'll be generating about $1 million in new property taxes from their assessed valuation. The payment on our $10 million, $750,000. So it will more than cover the bond amount that we took out. And the way that TIF works is that, so there's the differential, there's $250,000 that we don't need, that just goes back to property taxes. And the bonds are all paid off, then taxes just go as usual. So it was a great project for the first TIF in the state because it was very straightforward. We knew who was going to go in there. We got a good estimate of what their increased valuation was going to be. So it made it easy to plan a bond. A lot of TIFs is prospective. You're hoping you're going to get the development to pay for your bond, but it's a bit of a risk situation. So just north of Dairy Gold is the remainder of the port property, about half and half of Dairy Gold, and we're left with half that you see there. So we've got, 20 to 40 acre lots. 2 of those are already under purchase sale agreement for ag related businesses. A third for logistics. It's still kind of in the discussion stage, but we expect that to be all fully committed here pretty quickly. And then we're really out of large industrial tracts, so that is the next big project for the Port of Pasco, is to buy some new industrial land that can support future industry after we sell all those lots there. And then I will move on to the airport. This is a chart of the emplacements at our airport over the years, and you can see that last year, with the numbers in, was our best year ever, thanks to all of you flying at the airport. And a lot of that is the new flights that we brought in. Alaska started flying directly to LAX, which has been very popular. American came into the market going to Phoenix, and that was well subscribed. So they added a second daily flight to Phoenix. And now we've just been told that United, not a new route, but they're going to start flying 737 type size planes to Denver on their direct flights to Denver. So keep flying. We appreciate it. All of those new passengers is causing the terminal now to be congested. So our big expansion, it seems like it was just yesterday, is already bursting at the seams. So we're planning the next 10-year expansion at the airport. So everything on this map, this is the terminal footprint. Everything that you see in color is planned expansion of the terminal. The first part is going to be what's circled in red, which is some new jet bridges. And then a very exciting project on the right-hand side in the middle, that green area is where your bags go after you drop them off at the gate. You just need more room for the airlines to come pick them up before they take them out to the plane. Future phases you can see out there, we need to expand the ticket counters with all the airlines that we've got now. We're going to move the rental cars out to their own facility where cars are parked, and it's supposed to be the opposite side of the terminal. Add another baggage claim belt, add some more gates on the other end, and then hopefully some more concessions. We did just get our 3rd security lane. So I don't know when the last time was you went through the airport. We've had 2 lanes. So we just now got a 3rd lane that's supposed to be dedicated towards pre-check. So we'll see how TSA figures out. So it's busy there in the morning. If you fly out in that morning rush, don't get there 30 minutes before your flight leaves, because you won't make your plan like you used to be able to do. And then another project at the airport in the infield of the runway. This is about a 4 to 5 year plan. We want to develop an aerospace manufacturing park there. We've got some good land, and we just see aerospace continue to grow in the Northwest, and we've got land. So we would like the Tri-Cities to be on the map when those aerospace manufacturers are looking for new ground. So we've got a lot of work to do on that as far as infrastructure, making sure that the public is aware and has some input on how we're doing that project, and then waiting for some leases on that land to expire before we move ahead. So that's a quick update on a couple projects that we're working on.
Randy, thank you. You got questions of Randy from anybody?
Oh, I had a question about the length of term for the bond, for
Yeah.
the Dairy Gold project.
That was a 20-year bond.
20 years, okay.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to say thank you for adding that 3rd lane.
So tired those mornings.
I know.
All right.
Everybody's pre-checking everything now, so.
We all know we have the most thorough TSA checkers in the country at our airport.
Well, following up on what Kate had to say about the Pasco Airport, Shannon and I have a friend at the San Francisco Airport that deals with international flights and booking them, and he's traveled all over the world, and he flies into Pasco because we take him up to the mountains every once in a while, and he has to say that the Pasco Airport is just amazing. And this is coming from somebody that's seen airports all over the world. So Randy, good job.
Yeah, well, good job to all of you.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions?
The only comment I would like to add is just how much we have appreciated being able to work with Randy and wish him well in his retirement. The port has always been a really great partner for the COG, and so we look forward to keeping that relationship as things transition, but best of luck.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. And said, just likewise appreciate everything you've done with council governments, and this board really has made the organization so much more valuable in the community.
I did have a quick question just about the rental cars. I know that especially since COVID started, there's been a lot of removing of the ability to rent cars after a certain period of time, even though planes might still be coming in for the night. So is that something, I haven't luckily experienced that at Pasco because I have my car here, but is that something where if planes land after, I don't know, do planes land after midnight here? And if so, are the rental car places still open? Do they close only when the last planes have fully exited?
You've exceeded the level of my knowledge. Yes, planes land after midnight, but I don't know if you can pick up a car.
Okay, that would be one thing that I would recommend, maybe might be a good idea, because it is awful to be stranded in an airport middle of the night, especially if it's not where you live.
Good point.
Randy, thank you. You're welcome to stay. You're welcome to leave, whatever you'd like to do.
Nice seeing you.
All right, we'll move on then to consent agenda. These are items considered of a routine nature taken by one vote of the committee. Any item can be removed by a single member wanting to remove an item and place further on down the agenda or table for another meeting. Do we need to remove any items from the consent agenda? Being none, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thanks, Kate. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Great, thank you for the second. Since we don't have to remove any items, then we'll just go to a vote. All those in favor of the consent agenda approval as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Consent agenda is approved. Thank you so much. We'll move on then to our next agenda item, reports, and we'll go to Aaron.
All right, thank you very much. Next slide, please. Before I kick off my reports, I want to give a quick shout out and a congratulations to the city of Richland and the Port of Benton. The city of Richland received $1 million in supplemental Move Ahead Washington funding for the SR 240 Aaron interchange improvements. This was the #1 project on our regional transportation priorities. And then the Port of Benton, I think a lot of us saw in the Tri-City Herald yesterday, received $9.56 million in RAISE funding, which fully funds their federal ask portion of the project. That was submitted to us. The rest of it is being funded in local funds. So very much congratulations to the Port of Benton on that. And that was the #5 project on our transportation priority list. So this is now 2 years in a row we've had a project on our transportation priority list get fully funded. So good work to our region and having funding flowing in. Roy, did you want to give any words or anything about that before we move on?
No, we're gonna start the construction on the crossing this spring in conjunction with the Department of Transportation's improvements to expand 240 at that point. So at that time, then with the additional funding from the feds, we'll buy about 3,000 new ties and get the railroad speed double from 5 to 10 this year. And with the additional purchases next year, another 14,000 ties and get the rail back up to 25 miles an hour. So within a year, we're looking at trying to get the railroad back in its original condition. Thank you.
Thanks, Roy. Any questions of Aaron on that agenda subject? All right, we'll move on. Aaron, you want to keep going?
Yeah. Next one is 9.1, which is your monthly update on our obligation status. So just a reminder to everybody, as we are the Metropolitan Planning Organization, we are required to spend a certain amount of funding as a region by the end of the federal fiscal year, which is the end of September. For this year, we have to spend, we'll say, just south of $9 million. We're programmed to have over $10 million be spent within this year. So that means we don't have much wiggle room. We need our jurisdictions to obligate their projects. We'll be holding a call for projects within this next year to plan out our next couple of years. Next slide, please. And then this was included within your TAC packet, or excuse me, your board packet, explaining what projects we have programmed for 25. And this is just a more robust breakdown of what projects and the funding sources.
Any questions from anyone?
I'll say this will kind of get touched upon in my number 3 item for the call for projects as well. All right, number 2, the regional traffic count program analysis scope of work. So our traffic count program has officially concluded. And now Tanner is in the process of developing a analysis for our traffic count program dating all the way back to 2016 and then up to through 2024 and comparing and contrasting where we are growing in the region and where we are not. So the analysis will identify the top 25 corridors with the highest average daily traffic, and then in each jurisdiction, we'll look at the 10 highest locations within each jurisdiction. If the jurisdiction has 10 count locations, like I know Prosser has, I think 7 or 8, so it'll be prioritized on that. And then also identifying corridors that recorded the highest freight percentages within 2024, and all of these different bullet points will be looking at a historical analysis as well, so looking back to 16, 18, and how things are growing or not throughout the region.
Again, any questions of Aaron on traffic count?
And I'll say Tanner yesterday or earlier this week shared the final shape file with all the jurisdictions. So your public works directors, your TAC members should have the data and all of the supplemental information for the traffic count program.
Great, Aaron, thank you. Go ahead and move on to your 3rd one.
All right, last one is the 2025 call for projects. So just as a reminder, as I updated the board last month, we'll be having a call for projects in early 2025. Next month, you'll be seeing a guidebook as an action item. So just a heads up to that. And the call for projects will be about for 22 million. That will be for surface transportation block grant funding, transportation alternative program funding, and carbon reduction program funding. We've had very robust and long discussions. We've had 2 meetings that go over right around an hour and a half at the TAC level in December and January talking about this. And then yesterday we had a subcommittee meeting specifically talking about the things that couldn't be hashed out within our great normal TAC meetings. So a special thank you to the city of West Richland, Franklin County, and Benton County, the city of Pasco and Kennewick for showing up and participating in the subcommittee meeting yesterday. And we had really good discussions on how to involve preservation projects better within this process, the update of the contingency list, and how we'll have an annual update with applications and how this can fully fund some preservation projects so we can get more funding, we'll say, into our region and then spent. Increasing our region's chances of getting redistributed funds, and then updating our scoring criteria, removing subjectivity, incorporating metrics, and then clear definitions of scores. So what constitutes a 4 on a section, what constitutes a 1. So just making that very clear.
Aaron, thank you, go ahead.
I know in the past or traditionally the traffic counts have been used to help determine level of service in areas. Now with the state's climate goals, is the evaluation of those, the concept of level of service changing, and how will that change?
That's a really good question. So long story short, and Brian, please correct me if I'm wrong, but they are in the process of switching over from level of service. So right now, level of service is the standard. WashDOT knows that that is not the best metric to be we'll say evaluating roads, but they're still trying to come up with the preferred metric to do that. The traffic count program will still help establish the level of service, but it will also be used in the next metric that WashDOT will public.
You're correct, that's 490.
Yeah.
So Aaron, going back to the traffic count program, can you tell us what the number 1 intersection is, perhaps?
I would have to defer to Tanner.
Tanner?
Going through 718 sites. It's Road 68 and cross, but oddly enough, well, not oddly enough, but of the top 25, there were 6 G-way locations, specific locations. So, yeah.
What about the step cone gauge?
I have not dissected the count, the count levels. Yeah.
I thought I read somewhere where that was had the highest traffic count. I was just curious if that was right or not.
Yeah, I believe it was the Road 68.
Okay, yeah, great, thank you. Dave?
Yeah, actually, I apologize, but going back to also the traffic count, With the construction that is planned for Keene, I'm sure that that's something that you're working with West Richland to make sure that you can do a count that is gonna be valid rather than when it's gonna be happening right around the same time as construction, so that you can get a good estimate.
Yeah, so the counts are all collected and done,
Okay.
but in 2026, we'll do
Yeah,
a count program.
That's what I'm talking
And
about.
if there is construction for any jurisdiction, like Court Street was closed for a month or so. So we delayed that count location until construction was completed, so.
Okay, yeah, I just know that we've got a bunch of road plans that we're planning on doing. And with the traffic count coming up in 2026, I wanna make sure that everybody's coordinated.
Absolutely.
And Kate, there will be times where, for example, we would shift the location off of Keene
Right.
onto the side road.
Mhm.
So then we could show the increase of usage on whatever road that would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Erin, am I correct? That it's also our intention that once all the traffic count analysis and comparison is done, that Tanner is going to be doing some community presentations
That's
about
right,
that information too?
That looks good.
So Tanner will be in contact with each of the jurisdictions, probably around the March, April timeframe to come and do a presentation.
Great, thank you. Any other questions of Aaron? All right, seeing none, then we'll move on to Zach and local government program report.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome. So we can advance the slide a little bit. From the Economic Development District perspective, excellent. Yeah, the Economic Development District, as you all know, our SWAT for the CEDS, Community Economic Development Strategy, was underway. We completed that on New Year's Eve, December 31st. Our survey, we received 34 respondents from a good smattering of the region. We did ask where people lived. A lot of great responses. We held a SWAT workshop in mid-December that had 7 stakeholders from around the community. So these are city and port personnel, but we did have regional chamber representation, some private sector representation and everything, but we got some great remarks on that. And this helps build up our new CEDS, I don't want to say revival, but our complete renewal for 2025. And that's really going to be the foundational basis upon which the EDAC, the Economic Development District Advisory Committee, will be building the new strategic vision and goals for regional economic development. So we'll be convening the EDAC on January 28th. Just some quick overall takeaways, and there's a ton of information from our SWOT surveys to wade through, but optimism in the future of the Tri-Cities and Benton-Franklin County abounds. Everyone's very optimistic about the future of sustaining our businesses, sustaining our economy, but also growing and diversifying the economy. There is a great mindset to focus on our current assets, whether it's industrial and business, but also just recreational, workforce, education, but also open to growth, open to new ideas, new industry to come in. There is a general sense of a regard of a high quality of life in our region, but there's also a regional humility too. So we understand some of our shortcomings, some of our weaknesses as a region, and we are aware of some of the threats, whether they're external, like a climate change threat, or looking at political taxation kind of reasons that could hamper economic growth. But those are just 5 general takeaways from the SWOT analysis, and we'll definitely have a lot more in-depth information. And if anyone wants to read every response, I'm happy to provide that as well. But yeah, so our SWOT analysis has concluded. EDAC will be meeting on January 28th and moving forward with working through and affirming the SWOT, having some discussions there, and establishing a new regional vision and goals for our CEDS. We were also able to, as you know, we have various industries that we want represented on our EDAC committee. So we've been hitting the pavement and really trying to recruit new members here. So I think as of this morning, we will have 2 new members coming in, one from small minority-owned business and one from commercial lending, which were 2 areas that the board looked to seek additional members, and we'll be meeting with another prospective member next week for recruitment as well. So hopefully we'll be introducing them soon and bringing them on the board and or on the committee, and really just trying to get that robust, diverse perspective on our regional economy. So next with the new year, lots of funding opportunities, so I'll turn it over to Kristen.
Good morning. Yes, it is funding opportunity season. There are significant ones in Department of Justice and Bureau of Land Management. In fact, we've had 20 from the Department of Justice in just this week alone. So we've sent those out and gotten some positive responses. We've submitted a grant again for Benton County's prosecutor office. We're hoping third time's a charm. And then there are some Department of Commerce ones coming as well. So be looking out for those. I'm getting more and more every day. We'll be sending those out to people. And then 2 other activities we're working on for funding and community outreach. We're still working with Connell, helping them kind of manage the fallout of the closure of the plant. We've met with the State Public Works Board to find some funding opportunities there. Also some recreation ones. They have some needs for their local parks. So we're working with them on that. And then Benton City, who received a $2 million grant in 2022 to purchase the old Union Pacific Bridge and connect that to regional trails. So we're working with them, regional recreation groups, and Benton County to get that process a little further down the road. So working on that over the next few weeks as well, setting up that initial meeting.
Yep.
Any questions? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Cut you off.
Kristen, thank you. Any questions?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Thanks, wait, sorry.
First, just a quick one, I didn't catch it, EDAC, that's the Economic Development District Action Council?
Advisory committee.
Advisory Committee, the other.
Action council sounds pretty dynamic.
Yeah. And then for you, ma'am, I was wondering for the BLM, is that something that might also affect West Richland? Because we do have a lot of BLM land.
So, yeah, it is, right now, the grants that have been released are on wildlife and land management. So I will send those to you, and what
we
the
do
specific have.
A lot of it, right, and I think it's section 6 or section 8 has
Perfect.
a lot of BLM land.
Yeah, how many people call later today, and we can go over the ones that they sent, because there have been 5 or 6 just in the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'd be happy to go over those with you.
Yeah, either that or if you just.
Can I send them to you?
Oh, the staff, you know much
Great,
better.
oh, okay, gotcha, yeah, you bet.
And also the DOJ, because I know that we have DOJ in the West Richland Police Department.
Yes.
We've got a section for them, so they got sent out?
Yes, they did yesterday, actually, but there are a couple more that'll go out today, but yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Vicky?
Just an update on the Connell issues. Stephen McFadden from the port and Lee Barrow went to Olympia yesterday and presented to Curb, and they were granted.
They did receive it,
Yeah.
that's wonderful here, thank you for that.
You gotta celebrate that too.
Yeah.
That's a good plan.
Also, I believe that Kristen is coordinating with Mayra on a potential grant for the Port of Pasco as well to look at evaluation.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the grant was, but
Yes, there are some grants I sent to them this week, and Randy referred her to us, so we're gonna talk to her this week. Or just talk to her a little bit further on what we can do.
Yeah, Myra's our property standing.
Yes, yeah,
Kristen, thank you.
you bet.
Zach?
Oh, I was gonna say, there's a heck of a lot more grants that are coming in, like Kristen said, 20 from DOJ alone that we've been sending off to local law enforcement. And so we know there's only a finite time for our board meetings, so we didn't want to take up like 10 slides with it. But we are actively looking and interfacing with the staff of all of our membership, just to make sure that at least these opportunities are presented and we stand ready to have.
That's really great.
Yeah.
That Cox doing that.
Yep. And then finally, we are still working through our ARPA Economic Resiliency Grant from Benton-Franklin counties. So a lot of that funds Kristen and I's effort for just our outreach and technical assistance to the communities. We did finish and forward our 2024 activities report to each county commission, and we'll be meeting with Benton County commissioners in front of them on January 28th. And we're still working with Franklin County to get scheduled in front of them as well, but we're checking those boxes on that as well. So that conclude mine. So any other questions?
Any questions of that? Right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we move on to general update, Michelle.
okay. It's crazy to have such a speedy meeting today. Don't get your hopes up, they're not all gonna be. Okay, so for operations updates, for those of you who are actually in the conference room, we have completed our AV upgrades and reconfigured things here a little bit. We added a second video and sound bar to communicate with our owl that we had previously, so you can get a little more close-up looks for the people who are online of the people who are in the room. We have separated our monitors here at the end of the room so that people are on one monitor and the presentation is on the other. Again, so that the people in the room can feel somewhat connected to the people that are online and also still see the presentation well. So we're hoping all of this is going to add to a little more connected sense of government participation when most of our board meetings are about 50-50 between in the conference room and online. The staff, I mentioned last month, we had been completing our strategic planning activities as staff. And so on Monday, we went through and did our kickoff to review all of the updates of our plans. So most of the board has not been privy to a lot of this. It's been very internally focused amongst the staff, but we do have a 10-year target vision, a 3-year picture, and a 1-year plan that helps drive our activities forward, because this is, we've now completed our first 3-year cycle of using this process. I'm going to put together a comparison between what we originally envisioned for activities the first time we did this process and where we are today, now starting our 4th year. By the way, my 4-year anniversary is February, so we also have a wellness program under the Association of Washington Cities. Lacey, as our executive admin, has taken over that program, and she's put together a whole calendar of monthly focuses and quarterly activities and things we'll be doing for our wellness program. And then each year for the past 3 years, we've chosen a professional development book to study, and this year we've adopted a theme as well. So the theme for 2025 for staff is accountability. And the book we're going to be, we've just started reading is The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, because we really talked about that as the COG, there's nothing more important than having good trusting relationships amongst our staff, our board, our members, and the community. And so we each week we'll read segments of that book. A different staff member will lead the discussion of that week's section and how does that apply to our work. Last year we read the book The Art of Gathering to talk about how do we have meaningful meetings and convenings. The year before we read the book Traction about business management. So we tried to pull those things into the work that we do. So you'll be seeing some more of that. And then in the vein of accountability, we have for the last 3 years, we were a little soft last year, so we're re-engaging. We do have an accountability process where every staff person has specific roles that they are the key staff person they're responsible for our basic functions. We follow the tenet that when more than one person is accountable, nobody is accountable. So who is the buck stops here person for each of the things that we do? Each staff person sets quarterly goals for what are the things they're responsible for in our 1-year plan and other important deadlines. And to help with our presentation skills, at the end of every quarter, each staff person will make a formal presentation to the rest of the staff about what did they accomplish in the previous quarter and what are their plans for the upcoming quarter. A little bit of a low stakes practicing opportunity for being able to work on speaking skills in the community. So we're pretty excited about this. We'll begin to share some more elements with you all as the board, but it was a good kickoff to the beginning of the year for us as staff. And we've had a busy end of 2024, start to 2025 for community involvement. In December, I spoke to the Regional Chambers Ask the Experts Forum about servant leadership. That was really fun to talk about all the things about building culture and how do you engage with your staff. It's something I'm really passionate about. And so it was nice to be asked to share some of that. And then yesterday I participated in the Badger Forum. I had never visited, I never even watched the Badger Forum until yesterday. So that was interesting. But what was really meaningful is that the topic was who speaks for us now, Tri-Cities. And so the fact that the COG was asked to be represented in the who is speaking for the Tri-Cities now in the future, I think really said a lot about how far we have come in recent years. And I got an email back after the forum that I wanted to share, because for me it was the comment said, "Hey Michelle, I appreciated your comments and thoughts today. My view is you get it. I have always felt that BFCOG should play a much bigger partnering role in our community's future. I see you as someone who can steer it in that direction. I hope you do." So that was really cool. I was excited. So the discussion was awesome. We talked a lot about that speaking with one voice. We talked about the Tri-Cities Strategic Alliance partnerships and what's happening there. The importance of transportation came out loud and clear as an issue that affects every Tri-Citian and why we should be paying attention to that. And so I thought it was great. Kate, I know you were on.
Yeah.
I saw your name on there.
Yeah, I was there. I thought it was a really great, I love that you were able to present the strategic alliance because it seemed like not a lot of people that were on there knew about it. So that was really fantastic that they got to hear about that. It's like, oh, something is happening. That's what we're hoping to see happen already, so.
I think the other discussion that I really appreciated was, Mike Schwank had kind of talked about that, you know, even going back into the 80s, every 10 years or so, there's an iteration of a partnership and discussion that kind of moves things forward, and really hoping that nobody ever views the end of one and the start of another as a failure, but rather it's an evolution of new players, new organizations, new ways of thinking, and just building upon those past activities. There was a lot of reference to the information that had come out in the past Rural House study and all those opportunities for partnering. Even if the Tri-Cities never gets to the point that it's a metro government, there's still lots of room in the middle of ways that we can continue to partner and support each other better. So I felt like that was a really good presentation. So I was impressed with my first Badger Forum. I've never participated in that.
I've never heard of that metropolitan regional. I'm not certain exactly what Matt Watkins, he was talking about metropolitan.
Metro government.
The metro government, which sounded something similar to what the Ruggles House study was looking about, possibilities of combining all of them. And I did also like the fact that they mentioned, you know, we've got all of these groups, organizations, and they start with Tri-Cities. It's like, but there's also groups that are Benton-Franklin, so it's not just 3 cities that we're talking about here, it's a region.
Yeah, that was a good point, that, you know, even when we say Tri-Cities, we don't really mean the 3 cities, we don't really mean that.
We really mean Mid-Columbia.
Yes.
I wish that we could go more towards calling it the Mid-Columbia region rather than the Tri-Cities personally. You know.
I was just gonna say, will this group, this is an awesome group, but will that group be meeting regularly or
every month?
Every month?
So apparently the Badger Forum does forums and discussions regularly. Like I said, that was not one that I was familiar with, but
kudos
every month on
to be
Thursday.
on that.
I think it's the second Thursday or the third Thursday normally. They do a presentation, they have a local issue and they have a organization within their organization that plans what each discussion is going to be, who they're going to be talking to, and planning all of that. I used to be on the organizing committee or the planning committee for that. And Matt Smith, who unfortunately the community lost, had been in charge of that. And he was a fantastic leader for all of that.
Okay.
So.
and actually yesterday's discussion was one that CMARC had really been
Yeah.
passionate about having. And so the group was really committed to making sure that they got that topic discussed.
How far the Council of Governments has gone, and Vicky would
Yeah,
know this from years and years ago, is the Council of Governments would present to the Legislative Council, you know, what they would like to see go forward. It got ignored.
yeah.
It wasn't even listened to, and we have to go argue with the Legislative Council about, hey, we want our board bird too. So just seeing how far it's gone is a great tribute to this leadership here.
We've benefited at least from the last couple of years that Zach is on the legislative council as the representative for the chamber. So the COG's not on the legislative council, but you know darn good and well our transportation information got.
Yeah. Which was sneaking in, you know.
One thing that I would definitely say about that meeting, that it definitely was fantastic. Something that I heard prior Pasco Mayor Matt Watkins say was it's about people getting involved, and something that I hope that we can all kind of lean into is, yeah, the decisions get made by people that are able to show up, but how do we make certain that more people can show up so that they can be involved in those decisions? So hopefully we can at least help somewhat with that, and I feel like maybe that's not something BFCOG can help with as much, but if we can continue a focus maybe on making certain that we can allow for voices that might not normally be heard otherwise, that would be fantastic.
I think that's true, and actually, you know, last month Lizzie presented about our public engagement and other activities, and I don't remember which meeting she had attended, but she brought back a comment from another group that has really stuck with me, and it's that idea that, you know, nothing about us without us.
Right.
And so as a staff, we've kind of talked about that too, and just making sure that we are hearing from the right voices and the right people, at least in the things that we control in our planning elements, making sure we're trying to be broadly reflective and inclusive of those things.
It goes back to the start of our country, no taxation without representation. Don't do something to us without us being able to say something.
So speaking with one voice, we continued through the end of the year to have the individual meetings with the various jurisdictions. TRIDEC was pulling those together, the COG participated in those to really just talk about, again, that idea of how do we speak with one voice? How do we put that weight of 320,000 population, third largest metro, to work in supporting activities and things we need as a region. So far, I would say almost unanimously, the general feedback was, yes, we're supportive of this idea of speaking with one voice. Yes, we feel like talking about transportation is the best first place to try and kind of practice that. So the next step is for the COG to convene a discussion of the city managers, county administrators, and works directors, get them all in a room together and talk about that long range, big picture regional transportation system and where are the gaps that we as a community are identifying in the system. Because so much of what we do, we have our MTP that has, you know, the 25-year long range plan. We have all of the specific planning activities that are happening in the TIP and the STIP. And so what are all the jurisdictions planning? But at the same time, you know, the community for 50 years has continued to talk about a fourth bridge or a Franklin County bypass or a, you know, what are the things that are missing in our system that outside of the barriers to cost, you know, all of the things that make us go, we can't even really talk about that right now. But if we don't talk about it and we don't get a plan together and we don't get our desires captured, we're never going to get to that place. So to convene that meeting, have that discussion, see if we can actually agree upon one, what we're loosely referring to as a mega transportation project. See if there's something that we can come to some consensus on and see what happens. So the next step, the ball is back in the COG's court to, okay, convene a discussion, see what happens. So watch for more information on that. And then TriDeck has been, along with the Ledge Council, has been kind of floating the idea of a placeholder for perhaps a proviso request to the state legislature to fund a study of whatever this thing is we're gonna identify in this discussion. Whether that all comes together in time for the current legislative session, or whether there's, I mean, this is a terrible session to be asking for money, but those are still activities being teed up. So my impression of this whole process is this is gonna be a really great exercise, no matter what comes of it, to just help us kind of work through the process. And so I'm excited to see how this will continue to roll out.
Awesome. Any questions, Michelle?
I just have a couple more quick things, but anything on the speaking with one voice?
Guess not.
Okay, just contracted administration, I'm gonna tell you that I have spent more time working with public facilities districts in the last year and 6 months than I have in the 4 years that I've been here now. But that's also super exciting. So the Benton County Public Facilities District, their first meeting of the year is on January 28th. We are still working through the details of what needs to happen at the county PFD level to support City of Kennewick's and Kennewick Public Facilities Districts. Their bond restructuring to support the expansion of the Three Rivers Convention Center. Also, if you have not heard, there is a vote on the ballot in February for the Richland Public Facilities District for an arts center. And so the chair of the Richland Public Facilities District is coming to present to the county PFD about those activities, and again, how should the county need to be engaged in that process as well. So I'm learning lots of things about PFDs that I never knew. The Tri-City Regional PFD, I'm super excited to share that I had an epiphany. That we have been struggling over the last few years. So the Tri-City Regional Public Facilities District does not actually have a tax imposed. It does not have a project it's supporting. It's just a structure to enable such a thing to happen in the future. And when it was first developed in 2014, each of the three cities contributed $4,000, and those funds were given to the COG to administer the Public Facilities District. And the decision at that time was actually to set up a set of books for the Regional Public Facilities District. And then the COG, they just approved reimbursements to the COG out of those funds, but the COG held the funds. And well, the funds ran out sometime before COVID. And then we had to collect new funds, and there have been a couple years there was no quorum of meetings to approve expenses, and things got behind, and why am I getting this invoice for this thing? And it's been 2 years of a mess trying to just collect a very nominal amount of money for the work that the COG does to keep this entity legally functioning. The epiphany was, wait a minute, they don't have any money, they're technically not having any of their own activities, can't we just have an MOU with the three cities, between the three cities and the COG, to administer the PFD on their behalf and keep all the financial transactions and approvals inside the COG instead of trying to function inside the PFD. City managers said, yeah, that sounds great. So I'm working on an MOU draft with the cities, which will then mean we can file no activity financial reports on behalf of the PFD. We don't have to have that board convene to approve the expenses of the time we spend doing any administration. They'll just be between the COG and the three cities until such time at a point in the future that the regional PFD has some activity, and then that can change. But that will save lots of time and money and frustration from everyone. So I'm really excited about that. So that will be coming. I would maybe think even by the February board, we might see that.
And that would be something where it would just be a bill would go to the 3 cities so that they could pay for, and they wouldn't have to worry about having a meeting. Perfect. Just want to make sure you can pay for your time.
Yeah, exactly. We just want to get reimbursed for the little bit of time that we spend. And we spend way more time trying to chase the money for the time. We just want to help everybody. The EPA Brownfields Coalition Assessment Grant, our 2021 grant, we have our one final project, which is the City of Kennewick Downtown Area-Wide Plan. We have a listening session scheduled with their staff in January. We're just working really hard to get that last one done so we can close out that grant. Again, just as a reminder, we won't hear back on the second application we submitted until probably April or May. So a few more months before we know if we will have funding to continue that program. And then the Broadband Action Team, the first round of the state BEAD grant applications are due January 31st. As suspected, there are lots of communities that are just not even going to apply for the funding because it was so complicated and expensive to be able to do the work that needed to be done. However, Franklin Public Utility District is submitting an application for areas in rural Franklin County. So we have issued a letter of support for them. And Benton County had been approached by a local service advisor that was evaluating whether they were going to submit an application. And so we provided some demographic data and other support information for them to evaluate. So we're just kind of keeping tabs on what's happening there. Okay, that's it for me.
Any questions, Michelle? I just want to say, she talked about the 1, 3, and 10-year plans, and she asked me if I wanted to know anything, and I said, well, I need to know a lot, but besides that, do you have any plans for the future? And it was almost instantaneously, I got this volume of information on 1, 3, and 10-year plans. It's just, has anybody seen that? Besides, it's amazing.
It has been mostly staff directed, yeah.
It's just awesome what they put together. You know,
Sure,
can...
I'm going to lead the meeting. This is Michael Alvarez, Benton County. We have a special board meeting that we had to advertise this Wednesday at the last minute. So I'm going to be leaving to go to the diocese here at 11 o'clock. But I want to let you guys know I'm leaving, and I appreciate the time.
Great, thanks, Michael. You have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
We will.
We do. And we don't have any interaction.
Yeah, we don't have anything. But Vicky can go back to the days when we had issues. A lot of issues, and the COG was not looked at very well. In fact, most people didn't even know what the COG was. So this group, the staff, Michelle's leadership has just done an amazing job. So you guys need to be congratulated for that. And the people you put together, the partnerships you built are really, really important to this whole region. So thank you for all you're doing. Appreciate it.
I have to tell you guys, I am so proud of our team and the work that they do and the input that they give, and they all make it easy because they really love and care about the work that we do, and they're just excited about it. You can't help but be excited about it. And in fact, Erin and I, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to put together a proposal to submit to the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations to see if we could do a presentation at their conference about building future planners and improving your culture. So we'll let you know how that turns out, but we're kind of excited to talk about it.
Thank you, Michelle. We don't have any action items, but do we have any new business?
I was actually just wondering, is that completely just internal, or is there any way that we could see maybe what the look ahead plans are, even just like a not with all of the extra information that we don't need, just so that we can brag about you more? So we're planning on doing.
Yes, actually, when Skip and I talked about it, Skip had asked, and I said, yes, I can put together a little bit of a simplified version of what we're using for staff.
Yeah.
The other thing that we need to do, speaking of not new business for today, but we will get it scheduled for the first half of this year, is to do a board strategic visioning kind of discussion, because again, so much of the work that the COG has done is pretty prescriptive based on our different entities. But there are some elements where direction and feedback from the board can help shape our planning and our prioritization. And honestly, it's been on our radar to do this for the last 2 or 3 years, and then there's just been so much going on, either transitions in the board or transitions in staff, that the timing just wasn't quite right. So this year it's going to happen. And thinking about like our strategic pillars as a region, what is most important to us? Is it safety? Is it, how do we have that filter that helps us look at what's the most important thing for the direction of the organization overall? So
Makes sense. I also want to make sure that we're not. You're the subject matter experts. We're just the ones that are saying, hey, this is a good direction we'd like to go. But, I don't want it to be like, oh, hey, tell us everything that you're doing.
yes,
We don't need to know that.
yeah.
I want it more as a bragging thing, be like, hey, look what we're doing. You don't think BFCOG doesn't do anything? Oh, well, you have another thing coming. Look at all this stuff. Look what we got planned.
The 10-year picture is the one that I really want to share and get input with from the board, because that really is kind of that overarching direction, and where do we want to be, how do we want to be viewed in the community, and what steps are we trying to take to make sure that preferred future happens.
This is something that so many board members, whether it's this board or this committee or anywhere, don't understand. It's all the background work that goes on to do what they do. And lots of times it's not appreciated, but I learned a long time ago that you can sit in any kind of leadership position, but you have to listen to those people that are there that support you, because as I learned in the military, listen to those sergeants that are on the ground. They've been there, done that, but keep your back on key.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Listen to the E4.
So that's it. I mean, the combined knowledge of these people that support you is far greater than anything you could ever obtain in a lifetime. So thank you for what you guys are doing.
With the recently added staff, are we at fully staffed now, or do you see that there might be some more staff that we would need in the next year or two?
So at this moment, yes. In our 3-year picture, there's 2 or 3 things that as staff we've kind of identified as potential. So one, of course, is communications and marketing. There's so much that has to happen now between updating websites and social media and all the things that you put out, and with Lacey's role as our executive admin and communications coordinator, we're trying to figure out, is there enough time and bandwidth in that combined role to do all the things that we really need that role to do, now that we added a full-time staff accountant? So some of the things our admin role used to do have been shifted over as part of this staff accountant. So we're kind of gonna give this year to let this play out and see if that ends up being a need that we have. The other one we're looking at, and I think this will come out as part of our conversation about what is adequate funding for the COG for operations and direction, and that would be having a program coordinator position that's not as of yet assigned to any specific project. Because what has happened over the last couple of years is, besides myself, and then of course we had our office manager, executive admin, we were the only 2 people in the organization whose time is not already 100% accounted for and paid for by a federal program. Which means that if you have an opportunity, like the Brownfields program or the Broadband Action Team program or something else that's kind of new and different, my role is really the only one that had available staff time that could be billed to a new program, which is not necessarily the highest and best use of my time. I love doing programmatic work and inclined to it, so it hasn't been a problem, but that also means that if I'm doing broadband work or brownfields work, I'm not putting that time into other things that the COG needs me to be focusing on as the executive. So that comes back to that vision of the board, is that if you want the COG to be nimble enough to be able to act and support opportunities when they present themselves, we kind of still have to be funded at a point that we have somebody that has the time to be able to chase some of those opportunities when they happen. So that's the other one we're just kind of looking at. And then under the transportation program would be, we think ultimately, again, down the road, not right now, but in another year or two, there might be room to have one more planner on the transportation side. But again, that also has to do with how involved do we get in supporting land use planning or supporting smaller jurisdictions, or what's happening with some of the state or federal expectations for the demands. For right now, everybody has enough time, but it's also that shift for Aaron's role too. The more planners we have, the more time he has to spend managing planners and activities, the less time he has to actually do planning functions. So it's a delicate balance, but those are good questions.
Like a chess game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But funding some of those positions, you gotta fill that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I apologize. I realized that I was looking at the previous agenda or packet rather than the current agenda, and something that I thought I saw, but went back and just saw. I wanted to touch on the Mid-Columbia Buildings Appeals Commission. We didn't talk much about it here, but I'm wondering, it says that you've got recommendations in the packet, so what's going on with those recommendations?
Yeah, so we don't yet have the recommendations. This is a prime example of there's only so many hours to go around. So with the Mid-Columbia Building Appeals, I have been going through the previous documents for how it was structured, how does it need to adjust so that what happened to make it implode to begin with doesn't happen in the future. The plan is that as soon as I have the full draft of those documents done, they'll first go to the building officials for technical feedback, then it'll go to the managers, administrators for governance kind of level feedback on the documents. Then once we've got a massage to everybody feels good about what those look like, then the first stop is to come back to the COG and say, before we send this all out to the cities, is the COG in fact willing to take on responsibility for this program in the way that it's been designed? The second thing is that there was not a separate interlocal agreement related to the Building Appeals Commission. We really need that. Because there will be time and expense that go keeping that functioning. So that needs to be accounted for kind of in a separate way for the communities that are involved in that.
Well, so, also how legally does it fit into what the current procedures are for the different governmental entities and how they do building appeals?
Exactly.
Appeals.
And that's been part of the question, is that some communities had opted to say, well, we're going to use our hearing examiner for that. That's actually not a legally appropriate means for dealing with the building appeals.
Really?
According to the International Building Code that outlines what that appeals committee is. And when you think about it, the hearing examiner is a legal individual. The appeals commission is to allow for evolution in the practices of construction.
Right.
So the hearing examiner can't look at plans or strategies or materials that somebody is proposing to use that don't match the current code but could in fact match the intent.
Right.
So you need those actual, you need the actual skilled trade professional people on that commission to evaluate the safety, integrity, et cetera, of whatever's been proposed.
Right.
Or whatever's been deemed in violation, say, is it really?
Right.
So they really are two completely separate kinds of intents.
Okay, yeah, I know that the hearing examiner has been a discussion that has been ongoing for several governmental entities locally, and I know that in West Richland, we don't have one, so I'm curious as to the legalities, why. And then if that would relate to how we're proceeding in West Richland with ours, and just making certain that everybody else can cover their butts
Yeah.
legally.
I was contacted this week by Benton County asking where we were at with the process. Apparently the building appeals staff folks had a recent meeting, and they had amongst themselves said, we either all use hearing examiners or we have to have the appeals commission.
Yeah.
And since there is still kind of a mix of how everybody's approaching it, the general consensus was, okay, we need to keep moving forward with doing something with the appeals commission.
Yeah, because I know in West, we just do the planning commission. No hearing, commission, sorry, no hearing examiner, yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to director updates, and I see that Lynn Burton's joined us, so anything from Benton City you'd like to make us aware of? Can you hear us?
You just unmuted.
He just muted.
You just unmuted.
Lynn, are you there?
Yes,
Okay,
I am.
Okay, great, thank you. Lynn, anything you'd like to? That was Clint, okay, sorry. Lynn, is there anything from Benton you'd like to make us aware of?
Nope. Everything's sort of going really well in Franklin County at this time.
Okay, thank you. Let's see who we got then. City Prosser.
Oh, yes. I had mentioned at the last meeting that we're currently without a city planner. We have begun the search for a new city planner, and in the meantime, we have contracted with Nexus Planning Service out of Spokane to help with the comprehensive plan update, which is due in 2 years, I believe.
Thank you. Is Charles still there? City of Pasco?
No.
No? Okay, then we'll move on to West Richland.
Well, we've got a few things going on. Mostly just looking at how we can, with the budgets just being strangled. I know that everybody else is feeling that too, and the school districts now are in the news because they're being strangled with their budgets. So I guess still continuing on with their Hunger Games of, may the odds be ever in your favor. Yeah, we got a lot on my mind, and I can't say any of it here because we'll have to discuss it at our meeting on Tuesday. In the back room.
So Roy, what about Port Benton? Roy, are you with us today?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm on my way to a meeting in Prosser, so hold on. And, yeah, I think my report on the railroad is about the update I can give you.
Great, thanks, Roy. Drive safe. Lee, Port Pasco.
I think Randy gave everything that we had, that we could report. So we brought you up to date, and the next meeting I'll have a name for you, new executive director.
Great, thank you. And Port Kennewick, we've got a lot of activity just in the field, but I think there's probably a couple more important things. First of all, Vic, I want to thank you for your leadership in the past very much. Thank you for the support that you gave the COG when we went through some difficult times for several years. I don't think there was anybody else here that was during those years. So
I was brand new and I was very confused. I'm a little less confused.
I think something else that's kind of important, and I think we have something important here to announce.
We do, very important. Today, we have not one, but two of our staff that are celebrating birthdays. Aaron Bryce's birthday is today, and also Alexis Fernandez, our staff accountant, who's hiding out in his office, is birthday today as well. So, we've been having a little donut party and a little excitement.
All right, is there any other business that needs to come before this?
Brian, you have anything you want to tell us about?
Yeah, sure.
So we're, I think, in the 101st day of a 105-day session, so it's gonna be very interesting. I think as mentioned, everyone's budgets are in stranglehold, and so I think our legislative folks are gonna have their work cut out for them. We did get a new Secretary of Transportation. Roger Millar has left the department, and Julie Meredith will now be our Secretary of Transportation. She comes with a 36-year experience working in the department, so we're very excited about that. And she's mainly been in the Seattle Puget Sound area, working on the mega projects. That was kind of her thing that she did, work with HOV, Alaska Way Viaduct, 520 replacement. So she's got a lot of experience, and we're looking forward to meeting her and probably bringing her down to show her off. So, and I guess in the category of careful what you wish for, the Wall Port was successful in getting a $110 million rural transportation grant. So a lot of money, not enough to finish the corridor. So we met with the port yesterday, talked about some options. They're looking to probably go back to the legislature to maybe close the gap, but like I mentioned earlier, this probably isn't the year to do that. So they're looking at other funding opportunities, but really happy for them, very successful in getting that money, and a lot of things going on in the Wall area, like was heard before. So that's my report for today.
So what would they look at finishing from?
So we have phase 8, that's the last phase of that corridor, and it's the most expensive. They really, kind of the plan that when we talked to Pat Bray was to just get more funding to do more. We looked at a couple of options of maybe building a new interchange at Atelia. That's where the paper plan is. We could probably spend some there, maybe extend where phase 7 stopped up over 9 Mile Hill, because you have to have something that has independent utility. And so that's the only thing that we can really, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that would be great, because what's been done so far is really
nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. Great. Anybody else, any other business need to come before this meeting? If not, then our next meeting is February 21st, and it is 11:16, 11:17, and we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Wait, no, yeah.
I have